Just walking to work this morning with it's cold out here today. I'm not dressed aggressively like this just because I want to be. I got the fast walk going. But it's cold out here. It's like in the 30s. I keep going to the Midwest and bringing this cold weather back with me, I guess. That's the problem. But I wanted to just debrief and let you guys in on some of my thought process as I walk to work and get ready to see clients today. And I just want to take you guys into my world a little bit on last night's interview with Julie Marie Christensen. If you guys have not watched the interview yet, if you didn't tune in last night, looks like we had about 1,000 people watching with us last night, which is just absolutely unbelievable. Make sure that you tune in by going to this Facebook page, and you'll find the link to watch it. You can watch it, you can comment. Julie is active on there, and she will respond to your comments. But what an amazing, amazing opportunity to talk with Julie last night. It was her first interview that she's done since experiencing, as she would say, brain cancer. Not surviving, but experiencing it. And she experienced in her lifetime so much. And one of the things that I really took away, and what I'm going to be thinking about today, is the wonderful whys. Why is something happening, as her husband mentioned, is a question that we are all tempted to ask. And yeah, we all got to make meaning of stuff, but what they were both saying is that there's always something wonderful in the midst of what's happening. It reminds me of what Ray Dalio said in a recent Tim Ferriss podcast. The worst thing that ever happened to you ends up often being the best thing that ever happened to you. But in order to deploy that, you need time and distance from the event. The psychological pain has to pass in order for you to develop a different perspective. Now, I could tell you that for Julie and her husband, that perspective that they have that you heard last night didn't just happen overnight. Getting a cancer diagnosis on top of everything they've already been through, and then having to go through some difficulties she had with the medicine that she was given and the addiction. You can imagine that it wasn't probably just this overnight thing, but I was surprised when I asked Julie and her husband. They basically said no, that they committed to that way of thinking. They had done it so many times that they looked at everything as having this wonderful why. And as a result of that, when they were faced with one of the biggest challenges, if not the biggest challenges they'll ever be faced with brain cancer and a brain tumor, they deployed the same exact strategy that they used before. It reminds me of, like I said, Ray Dalio and his book Principles, which is a great book for you to check out. I got a leaf blower. I got to make my way. These are the only people that derail me. That, and when I'm crossing the street and people are like, oh my God, look at this guy with recording himself as he's walking. I'm a little self-conscious out here. Leaf blowers and people driving by judging me. Those are the only two people that can derail me on my walk to work as I give these little videos. But Ray Dalio, his book Principles, go check it out. Tim Ferriss, his podcast, absolutely unbelievable. Tim interviews people, and what he does is he's always asking about process. So he wants to know every little detail of someone's process. And so Tim would have had a field day with that process of the wonderful why. Just like I was having a field day listening to it and really just sitting with it and marinating on it today. There's also a book called The Obstacle is the Way. It's by Ryan Holiday. It's an amazing, 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 amazing book. And The Obstacle is the Way is a book that I read about a year ago thanks to Tim Ferriss and his podcast. The Obstacle is the Way is a book about how do you approach the struggles in life. The people that are really successful in their life, they approach struggles differently. And I saw that from Julie Marie last night. The average person, when we experience a failure or a stumbling block, we automatically internalize it like something's wrong with us. Like, I must not be very good at this. My dream is to follow this career path, or my dream is to have this kind of family, and because I can't get pregnant, or because the career path has stumbling blocks, it must not be for me. And I must just want to give up. But people throughout the course of our history have repeated this behavior that Julie Marie and her husband talk about, which is the way they respond to obstacles is by going through them, embracing them, seeing them as an invitation and an opportunity to grow, an invitation and an opportunity to learn something wonderful about themselves, to be sharpened in a way that they wouldn't have been sharpened without the obstacle. And that's something that really stands out with me today as I reflect on Julie's interview. Julie, her story, I had someone reach out to me today and said they've watched it already twice. And for all you people out there that say no one has an attention span beyond 90 seconds for these videos, someone out there watched her interview last night, which was about 2 hours. They've already watched it twice. And oh, by the way, they're getting ready to watch it a third time. That just tells you how powerful Julie's message and her story is. That just tells you how inspiring and how encouraging she is. And again, I just encourage you, if you have not watched it yet, to take a look at it. What I take from it is for me, selfishly, I'm so glad to know Julie and her husband. When I go down to San Diego, I want to get to know this protective diet community so much better. I want to get in front of more of her recipes. That's the part of me that I'm just excited about that personally. She's extended an invitation to me. She said, my community wants to feed you when you come down to San Diego. So I'm all about that protective diet community. I will be all over that. I'll be in San Diego sometime this summer, and I would love to get fed by you guys because those recipes sound amazing. But each week when I hear people's stories, I have a lot of reflections. And so my big takeaway, again, the thing that I'm going to remember about Julie's story in her interview last night is the wonderful whys. It's finding the meaning in the most horrible circumstance. And if Julie can find it in a brain tumor diagnosis, if her husband can go to that instinctively and somehow acknowledge the fear that he has about losing his wife, but go instinctively to that, where in our lives can we deploy that right now? You know, it's going to sound ridiculous, but what's our brain tumor? What's the biggest thing in our world right now that we feel like is too much for us? Which obstacle is so big that we are afraid of? What's holding us back from doing what we want to do in our lives? I know it's not easy, and I know when we sometimes put things in perspective, like we look at what we're struggling with, I look at what I'm struggling with, and I put it in perspective to Julie's brain tumor, there's no way it could even match up. And in some ways, that invites you into a place of invalidation to say, well, then why am I upset? Okay, in part it puts it in perspective. That's good. Perspective is important to understand the psychological pain. But don't automatically roll over and say, like, my pain doesn't matter. Your pain matters. Whatever you're going through that's holding you back right now, that matters. But to see that this strategy can work in the most extreme of circumstances is only more of an invitation for you to use it now. What in your life right now is standing in your way? What in your life right now do you think is this giant mountain that you can't climb? Where do you feel like you're failing right now? That's an invitation to find something wonderful in it. You know, there's been many things that I'm doing right now today. Like, I wouldn't be talking to you if it wasn't for the fact that I had to struggle with obesity, similar to what Julie Marie talked about. If I never went through it, I wouldn't have language to speak to you to speak the language. Whatever we're going through, even if it doesn't seem like it right now, is somehow a wonderful why, as they would say, a blessing in disguise for the next stage of our journey. But the only way we see that is to step back and have a bigger perspective. Go read Obstacle is the Way, amazing book. Listen to Tim Ferriss's podcast with Ray Dalio, one of the best podcasts of